Kimi ni Todoke has some of the most realistic relationship dynamics, tackling teenage love and navigating your first real relationship. So today I will be breaking down the 3 couples in Kimi ni Todoke, or From Me to You, just in season 3. So that would be Sawako and Kazehaya, Ayane and Kento, and 3, Chizu and Ryu. It's been a hot minute since I've recorded a long-form video, and I am so excited to be back. Personally, I really loved season 3. I know that a lot of people weren't really happy that it was 5 episodes, but I really liked that it was an hour long. It was kind of like watching a movie. Like, I could pause in the middle of the episode, and I didn't really have a problem going back to it the next day or whenever I had time to watch. But what did you guys think about the length and the amount of episodes? My cat is actually sleeping. I don't know, you can probably see his legs, maybe not, I don't know. Although this video will be overall fairly PG, we will be covering some topics that some people might find triggering. So I will be mentioning grief, and there will be a brief mention of DV. So if any of that is triggering for you, please take care of yourself. With all that being covered, let's get into it, shoujo fans. Starting with the main couple of the series, Sawako and Kazehaya. We watched Sawako and Kazehaya go through their first date. We got a glimpse of this in season 2, but they decided to reanimate it into the new season 3. Honestly, I cannot believe it took them, 13 years to make a new season? Like, it's so random. Anyways, not the point. At first, when I saw that there was just 5 episodes, I was like, wait, what? Just 5? And then I saw that they were like an hour long, so I was like, oh, okay, you're forgiven. Because I was like, wait, what? They go on a picnic and planetarium date, which is the most ideal, cutest date ever. So we see Sawako finally being able to give Kazehaya those gifts that she wasn't able to give him throughout the year. The chocolates, in Canada we call it a toque, but the beanie, the winter hat. So this planetarium picnic date, it actually happened on Kazehaya's birthday, which is really sweet. Sawako ended up buying him a keychain for his cell phone to kind of match the Christmas gift that Kazehaya gave her. Did you guys ever have those keychains for your phones? I feel like I had one, but I really can't remember. I miss flip phones so much. They were so fun to just hang up. So in episode 1, we see the beginnings of their now formed romantic relationship, and Sawako says,
"Being in a relationship sends my brain into overdrive."
Which, personally, I was very similar as a teenager. I felt very overwhelmed with the idea and the thought of being in a relationship. When I was in a relationship once in high school, I was very overwhelmed. I was definitely not ready for a relationship, and I was just kind of going through the motions. And I felt extremely, overwhelmed. Sawako expresses her discomfort about being a girlfriend for the first time and the expectations that come. And Kazehaya struggles with the overwhelming feelings he has towards Sawako and remaining respectful towards her physically and all that stuff. So they're caught outside holding hands by Sawako's mom, and Sawako's mother had no idea that Sawako was in a relationship. So this is the first time she introduces her mother to Kazehaya, and this makes her feel guilty because she noticed that Kazehaya had already told his parents about her, so she feels bad that she didn't tell her parents. We watch as both Kazehaya and Sawako meet each other's parents, which goes seemingly smoothly, even though their dads are a little bit intense. Sawako's dad, in particular, can't seem to let go of his daughter. I understand that it's probably very difficult for him, but it drove me nuts. Like, I thought it was really, he was very annoying. Like, I was like, this is your daughter, let her grow up. Let her experience what she should at this age. They're innocent, you know, there's nothing weird going on. I get it, he's protective. I guess because Sawako and her dad have a very close bond, and maybe the idea of her not being around them as much breaks his heart a little bit, which I understand, but it's just The fact that her dad would go up to Kazehaya and be like, oh, Sawako made me this hat. Did she make you this hat? Like, what? Like, this is a teenager. What are you doing? What are you doing? But thank goodness Sawako's mother makes up for all the weirdness that Sawako's dad has. So Sawako and Kazehaya have a discussion about first names to each other in Kazehaya's room. So they both end up saying each other's first names instead of their surnames or last names, which makes both of them blush, which is so cute. I'm assuming most of you guys know, but for those of you who don't know, in Japan, when you're on a first name basis with someone, it basically means that you know them on an intimate level. In Japan, you use different honorifics for different titles, like san, sama, kun, chan. So calling someone by their first name means that you're very close with this person. When Kazehaya and Sawako call each other by their first names, it's a big deal to them. It's special. And the episode ends with Kazehaya saying Sawako's first name again. The class goes on a 5 nights and 5-day trip to Okinawa. I actually loved class trips. I thought they were so fun. What I love about Chizu, Ayane, and Sawako is that each of them remind me of a different aspect of myself, and I feel like that's probably something we all feel watching this series. Chizu reminds me of like my excitability and maybe how much I freak out. And Ayane's seriousness is something that I really relate to, and Sawako's shyness reminds me of my younger self, especially. During the Okinawa trip, we watched Sawako's experience with her classmates, and it's really lovely to see her just appreciating and being so grateful for each moment she has with them, because it's not something that she's still quite used to, because, you know, people used to be afraid of her. So Sawako is still pretty tense around Kazehaya. They do go on I think this is kind of a date. I'm not sure. It seems like a date to me. They talk about buying matching Hawaiian shirts for their dads, which, why is that such a dad thing? Because my dad always wears Hawaiian shirts, like always. That's his staple. They end up painting ceramics together and exchanging their ceramics, which is really cute. And by the end of this day, they end up, you know, closing the gap more and more between each other, being more comfortable around each other. And yeah, they're just getting closer and closer together physically, but still not having kissed yet. Later, Sawako is left alone in the girls' room. She goes to buy juice and runs into Kazehaya, who said he was actually waiting for her. They go and sit next to each other on a bench, and here comes the scene that causes a truck ton of issues for them for the rest of the season. They're shoulder to shoulder on the bench, and they're finally about to kiss when Ayane unintentionally interrupts. Girl, we need to work on your timing. So Kazehaya is beyond shaken up. He's embarrassed, and he pretty much runs away after. The next day, Kazehaya and Sawako are incredibly tense together. Even their damn teacher notices. And since the class trip, Kazehaya would become more and more tense and distant around Sawako, which really stresses her out and makes her very sad, which I would be too. Honestly, I was very, very annoyed with Kazehaya again this season with how he was behaving around Sawako. Obviously, we watched this series knowing that there's going to be tons of miscommunication, but I just wish that this couple would work on their communication. The second that something is wrong, they should tell each other. So Kazehaya wouldn't even hold Sawako's hand or call her by her first name anymore. Kento would pull Sawako aside at school and tell her that he notices that they're tense, but to just give it some time and things will sort itself out. I had my opinions about Kento. It's weird because he's so charming. I haven't read the manga, so I don't know anything beyond this point in terms of storyline with him, but I knew that he was going to have a bigger role because I was like, they're making this guy very likable. But now in season 3, I'm like, I really like him. I do. He redeemed himself for me personally. So now on to Christmas. Unlike last year when Sawako was not allowed to, I don't even remember, was she not allowed or did she just not even mention it to her parents, which is so on brand. But she didn't end up going to the Christmas party last year. But now her dad finally let her go to the Christmas party with her friends. Of course, Sawako wasn't really expecting a whole ass Christmas party with her entire class, but it's very Sawako to be grateful for it, nonetheless, even if it wasn't really what she wanted or what she was hoping for. She's still appreciative, which I love her for that. Chizu mentions to Sawako that Kazehaya had briefly mentioned to her that something was bothering him, which sends Sawako into a panic, as it would anybody. She starts to worry that he's stressed, and she sensed it. She knew. Women's intuition. We always can tell. But she knew that something was wrong. So while the girls are Christmas shopping, Ayane mentions that Kazehaya was planning to do something with just the two of them, either before Christmas or after Christmas, which probably wasn't the best thing to say because now Sawako has the expectation that he's gonna, take her on a little date or do something romantic. Because in Japan, Christmas Eve Christmas in general, I think, is looked at as more of a romantic holiday rather than a holiday meant for family. And then Sawako decides to make Kazehaya some gloves for Christmas. So during school, Sawako decides to gather the courage to ask Kazehaya what's been bothering him, or if he's okay, rather, since Chizu had mentioned that something was bothering him. He grabs Sawako's hand and then just lets it go and lies and tells her no, nothing's bothering him, that he's okay. And it turns out that he was actually short with her because he thought that Sawako was gonna break up with him on the staircase when they had that conversation. Of course he would think that. I would think that. Right now, he's treating Sawako like garbage. Not the stinkiest garbage, but, On top of that, Kazehaya ends up running into Sawako's weird dad while he's Christmas shopping for Sawako. And Sawako's dad asks Kazehaya if they are an official couple yet and what their plans are for Christmas, fishing to see if he's going to give an answer that he approves of, which he does. He tells her dad that they are planning on having Christmas with a group of friends. And then Kazehaya bumps into Kento right after, and they spontaneously decide to go and have some tea while spilling some tea. Kazehaya shows his jealous side when Kento mentions that he has a crush on someone, and Kazehaya thinks that it's Sawako, so he gets really jealous. But it turns out it's not Sawako, it's Ayane. Kazehaya gets really touchy when people refer to him as wholesome. As a girl who used to be called, and still sometimes, I think, less now, I can't really remember the last time I was called this, but when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, definitely, I was called wholesome all the time. And it does get old, but it never truly bothered me because I knew that there was truth there. I was fairly wholesome. So Kazehaya believes he is not wholesome, which bothers him because he feels like people have this false image of who he truly is. And he believes that Sawako might also believe that he is this wholesome guy that he doesn't believe he is. And I guess he has a fear that Sawako may have fallen for someone that isn't who he truly is. And Kento notices that Kazehaya and Sawako are a lot more alike than he had originally thought because both of them are trying to shed something. Kazehaya is trying to shed this wholesome image that people have of him, and Sawako is trying to shed her image of, being Sadako. Meanwhile, Sawako's dad tells her that they were going to spend Christmas Day together on the 25th as a family, which disappoints Sawako. Obviously, because of what Ayane said earlier, she was hoping that she would have one-on-one time with Kazehaya. So this makes Sawako cry in her room because she is really sad at the thought that she has distance between her and her boyfriend right now. When Ayane asks Sawako what it's like to be in love, Sawako says,
"She's always happy, yet always anxious and on edge."
If I were her older sister, I would be like, that's not how it should feel. I honestly, I would just be like, you either need to talk to him to try to fix things, or you need to end it, because you should not be walking on eggshells with your partner. And they should not be making you feel so uncomfortable. I get that people fight and you work through things, but that's just I don't know. I didn't like how she described that. I was like, this sounds awful. I didn't love that for her, not at all. This conversation makes Sawako cry. Ayane hugs Sawako, and they have the sweetest scene that they've ever had, in my opinion. I love this scene with them. They're such sweet friends. During the Christmas party, this is one of my favorite episodes. We love a good cozy Christmas episode for Kimi ni Todoke. At the Christmas party, Kazehaya was busy playing host, so much so that he barely got to spend any time with Sawako at the Christmas party. And when he was actually able to sit down next to Sawako to spend some time together, someone would pull him away to ask him something, and then he would just leave and take care of that, which I understand. He felt in charge of this party, so I get that he had to play host a little bit, but I just, I don't know, it just bugs me. On top of that, Joe ends up spilling the beans that Kazehaya doesn't really talk about his relationship, which makes Sawako think that Kazehaya is basically over them. He's not interested in Sawako anymore. And it makes her wonder if they're still boyfriend and girlfriend, which is fair. When the gift exchange starts, Sawako notices that one of the boys ends up getting Kazehaya's gift, which actually makes her jealous. So Sawako ends up witnessing an altercation between Mogi and Kento, which we'll get into in a bit. So Sawako runs to get Ayane, and Kazehaya sees this little commotion going on, but he's kind of looking from afar, and to me he looked sad, so I'm guessing it was because he feels like he's a bit of an outsider in this little scenario. After the drama subsided and the Christmas party was over, Kazehaya and Sawako decide to walk home together. Sawako overhears a group of boys saying that they were surprised that Sawako and Kazehaya were walking home together because they assumed that they had broken up. And obviously, this is not something Sawako wanted to hear. But the thing is that Sawako doesn't realize that the reason Kazehaya is so distant is because he is afraid of losing control around her physically, and he just wants to respect her and cherish her. So that's why they've been so freaking tense. Yeah, I just honestly wish that these two would just communicate better. Sawako spontaneously decides that she will grab Kazehaya's coat and close her eyes and wait for him to kiss her. She was so sick of all the noise of everyone else's opinion about their relationship that she was just like, I'm just gonna, go for it. I'm gonna do something about it. She was just like, screw this. I'm just gonna do it. It breaks my heart that it didn't pan out the way that she was hoping, because all he did was ask her what was the matter and blushed. That was a point where Sawako thought, this is the last time I'm ever gonna do anything like that she's ever gonna stick her neck out like that, or that she was ever gonna go on a limb like that. Just makes me sad because she actually is trying. She's trying. This whole thing just makes her so angry. She has a little bit of an emotional outburst and tells Kazehaya that he lied to her. And man, this scene made my stomach drop, or that section of this scene made my stomach drop, as I'm sure Kazehaya's stomach dropped too. Sawako cries and says that something is bothering him, but he says that nothing is bothering him, and that all she wanted was to spend time with him this year, unlike last year. She tells him that she feels lonelier than she did when she was alone, which breaks my freaking heart. She says she understands that Kazehaya is busy, but obviously it still hurts. She finally asks him if he's been having second thoughts about them and if he even likes her anymore, which I am so proud of her. I'm so glad that one of them was able to finally say something, finally able to be upfront with the other person. So with that, Kazehaya kisses Sawako. He hugs her and reassures her that he still likes her, which makes her bawl her eyes out. She's relieved because he's finally looking at her, not just finally looking at her physically, but probably also emotionally as well. He hugs her really tight and then looks at her again and says that he really loves her and that he wants to talk properly, but it'll probably have to be a bit of a longer talk. So they managed to convince Sawako's dad to let her stay out 45 more minutes, and they talk. Personally, I don't know what you guys think about the kiss. I thought, it feels kind of romantic, but in real life, I probably wouldn't have loved that. I would have been like, bro, read the room. I don't want to be kissed right now. I'm devastated. My heart is broken. You're making me feel like shite. I don't know. I like watching it. Okay, yeah, kind of romantic, but in real life, I don't think someone would actually like that. I don't know. It would just a kiss would not make it feel better. Like I would rather have him say something first and then kiss rather than just like plant one on her after she's like yelled at him and cried about how heartbroken she is. They go to a cafe when Kazehaya tells her that last Christmas he vowed to himself that he would never let her feel sad or alone, which he said he failed. Yeah. He said he didn't intend to make her feel anxious. He just wanted her parents to know how serious he was about her, which is sweet, but like, I just wish that he could have just said that, you know? He says that ever since the Okinawa trip, he has lost a lot of confidence since their near kiss. And he admits that she's had his heart since the first day that they met. But he also says that he's selfish and flawed and petty and wants her to himself. But that means that all of her progress that she made in making friends would just be wasted. He has a lot of self-deprecating words to himself, which is really sad. But what I love about these last scenes is how human it is. Like, this is a conversation that you would see happening between two people, between a new couple or a young couple. Even as an adult who's been in a long-term relationship, I'm constantly learning about relationships still, and I know that it will never stop. But the thing that makes me just so frustrated with this couple is they are so sweet together. They are such a good couple together. They bring out such a lovely side in each other, but their lack of communication sucks, basically. And that's what frustrates me the most about them, as much as I love them together. Sawako takes his hand and tells him that even when there's conflict between them and when things are hard, she still wants to be with him. She still chooses him, which is so beautiful. It's, you know, that's part of being a relationship. You have these stupid arguments or you have a blowout fight, but you still choose to be with them no matter what. The fight doesn't affect how you feel. And of course, Sawako and Kazehaya will continue to learn about their relationship as things go on, as things progress. So they end up exchanging Christmas gifts, and they happen to be the same thing. Gloves. They both gave each other gloves. Seeing the last scene on Christmas actually made me tear up. Like, it was so lovely seeing all of them together, spending Christmas together. Here, Sawako's dad starts to lighten up a lot more. He says that everyone, including Kazehaya, are welcome in their house anytime. Finally. Tell me if you guys have experience with strict parents. My parents were strict with sleepovers, boyfriends, like dating, anything like that. But not quite like this, you know? Not that I really ever wanted to two sleepovers or date, really. So they didn't really have to worry about that too much, but still. Whew. Next, we have Ayane and Kento. Because I haven't read the manga, I didn't know that Ayane and Kento were gonna end up together. However, I did feel some vibes in season 2. I really don't remember where or when, but I remember just thinking that they would probably be really cute together. Personally, I'm so happy to see Ayane getting a more starring role this season rather than just being the pretty friend. I just am so happy to know more about her. At first, seeing Kento hanging around the girls kind of bothered me. Like, I was like, what is he doing here? Just because of what happened last season, how he would get in between Sawako and Kazehaya. It was just kind of manipulative. He had a redemption story this season, in my opinion. What I love about this show is that even the characters you don't really like, you still see their humanity, you see their flaws. There is still something about them that we like. So Ayane, always having had a boyfriend, is now single. With Chizu, they're both single, and being single makes Ayane uncomfortable, or rather insecure, I guess. But she does tell her friends that she's actually never told a boy that she likes him. When a boy from class B named Mogi asks Ayane out in the hallways before their class trip to Okinawa in front of all of her friends, Ayane says yes, she'll go out with him. She'll be his girlfriend, which is a very far jump when you're just meeting someone. Like, okay, I'll be your girlfriend. Like, okay. In Okinawa, Ayane and Mogi have their first date and they kiss. That's all we really see in this date. Ayane is disappointed because she thought she would feel more, or she was hoping that she would feel more. She's disappointed that she doesn't feel anything for Mogi yet. And when Sawako asks Ayane if Sawako's heart will explode when she kisses Kazehaya, Ayane says no, because, well, she's never experienced that herself, and to her it's not a big deal. She's never, like, it's not more than just a kiss. Later, Ayane bumps into Kento at the mall. I think it's a mall, I'm not sure. It looked like a mall to me, so we're just gonna say it's a mall. And he was with his Kento girls. Kento wanted some tea about Ayane's date with Mogi, which Ayane didn't share anything with him. Ayane and Mogi are sharing like really awkward small talk, and then out of nowhere, Mogi like hilariously approaches Ayane like he's going to kiss her. It's just like the funniest scene because it was just one of those teenage moments of I have no clue what I'm doing, I'm just gonna go for it. It was just like he did not read the room with that one. Like, it was so awkward and funny, and just the shot was hilarious. Like, we were bursting out laughing, and obviously Ayane stops him. So the next day, Ayane actually overhears Mogi and his friends talking about her. They're mentioning that Ayane is moving very slow, even though they kissed fairly early in their relationship, which, ew, I was like, ugh. I know that Mogi was probably just being a bro with his friends, but it was not a good moment for Mogi. So Mogi apologizes to Ayane for overhearing this conversation. Ayane forgives him and then ends up just breaking up with him. Ayane reflects on her relationship with Mogi and realizes that their conversation lacked substance, and he didn't even walk her home, which in Japan, I guess it's a big deal. Like, the boyfriends usually walk the girls home. She realizes that he probably didn't really like her that much, and she realizes that she didn't really like him much either, and she was just, I guess, going through the motions. Kento sees that Ayane is looking sad and alone, and he leaves his little posse to join her. Ayane lies to Kento and says that she's okay, but she asks Kento if he's ever been in love before, which he says, of course. And Ayane confesses to him that she has never been in love with anyone before. She's never even dated anyone because she liked them. I am someone who needs to develop either friendship, some type of bond with someone, to feel romantic feelings towards someone, and I really related to Ayane. I feel like she's similar. Yeah, especially in my teenage years, it always felt really forced, which is why I didn't really date that often. And then it went on in my 20s too. Of course, even if I had a friendship connection with someone, it didn't guarantee that I would end up having a romantic connection with them later on. It never guaranteed that I would end up crushing on them or anything, or seeing them as like boyfriend material. It was very difficult for me to feel those feelings. And oftentimes I felt like something was wrong with me, which is probably, again, like something Ayane probably feels. There's a demi-sexual, demi-romantic aspect of her that I really saw in myself watching this season. And Ayane was hoping that within time she would end up developing feelings, like stronger feelings for Mogi, which didn't end up happening. And I have found myself in various similar situations. That whole conversation, Kento was just listening to her. He ends up hugging her at the end because she ended up getting emotional. He didn't say anything more. He just was there for her. Back at school, Kento's girls find Ayane in the bathroom, and Ayane ends up finding out that those girls aren't actually his girlfriends. They're just his friends. She also finds out that there is a rumor going around that her and Mogi have broken up. And at first, Ayane thought it was Kento who spread this rumor, but the Kento girls said that Kento would never do that. He is an ally to all girls, which we love. At the train station, Ayane and Kento run into each other. She was basically just trying to avoid him because she felt really embarrassed about what happened in Okinawa, and he buys her a hot drink and she notices that he is actually really kind and gentle. Kento asks Ayane if she would like to spend Christmas with him, but she says she has already signed up for the class Christmas party. He decides to just join in and sign up for the class Christmas party too. The scene where Kazehaya and Kento have tea and spill some tea, we really find out how much Kento likes Ayane. He says that he's trying to soften her walls and knows that she's probably been really affected by her past. Kazehaya mentions to Kento that he doesn't know much about Ayane's history with dating and her boyfriends, but he does remember seeing her with a swollen cheek, which makes Kento so angry. He says that he would never treat Ayane like that. He would treat her like a queen, which we love that for her. Kento comes off a little bit like girl crazy, a little bit, just kind of obsessed with girls. But so far, I really liked how he was with Ayane, super respectful and just there for her. Ayane tells Sawako that she thinks that Kento has a crush on her, but then she kind of second guesses it, thinking that someone like Kento would never like her. I don't know why she would think that, because she's really pretty and she's so lovely. Sawako could not confirm or deny, because Sawako does know that Kento has a crush on Ayane, but she just, she wants to keep a secret. Ayane admits that she is jealous of Sawako and Chizu because even though they have these feelings, these scary feelings towards their guys, they're still so happy, and Ayane just doesn't know what that feels like. She's envious that she has never felt those feelings before and that she really just doesn't understand herself, which makes Sawako really emotional, which I thought was so cute. Sawako says that if people really knew her, they would fall in love with her, and that she's selfless and kind. And I love their friendship. They're so sweet. So later at the karaoke bar on Christmas, during the Christmas party, Kento opens the door for Ayane. They basically spend the entire Christmas party together. I thought it was interesting that Ayane, she thought that Chizu and Sawako are perfect with their guys, and that she was like envious about that. But it's like, here's this guy that's like sitting right next to you. You don't even notice that he's like, asking you if you want a drink, or that like, if you're okay, like, and making conversation with you. Like, she doesn't even notice that he's there. There is this moment where Joe expresses interest in Ayane, and Kento very respectfully says, "You can't have her," and then gives him tips on how he would approach a girl that he likes. It's something like, go up to a girl and ask her what she thinks about you, and then tell her you love her. Like, it's so weird. And Ayane, of course, did not love that, but Kento did tell her that he would never use that on her because it wouldn't work on her. I was like, nice save. Joe he ends up stepping on Kento's Christmas gift. So Kento has to go and check if it's okay. So he goes into the hallway and he sees Sawako, and they have a little heart-to-heart about Ayane. Kento tells Sawako that he just wants to make things better for Ayane. A few moments later, he goes into the bathroom. Kento is checking on his gift. The gift is a bouquet of roses, and they are crushed. They are a bit destroyed. But while he's in the bathroom, he runs into Mogi. Kento confronts Mogi about what happened in Okinawa with the friends and everything. He says that he thinks that Mogi had expectations about his relationship with Ayane. Mogi did admit that he did have some expectations in his relationship with Ayane, which may or may not include sex. This makes Kento angry. Now the conversation is taken outside of the bathroom, so in the hallway of the karaoke bar. Kento ends up punching Mogi. He punches Mogi for hurting Ayane's feelings, and Mogi is bleeding. He didn't need to resort to violence to tell Mogi that he didn't respect him. You know, he could have just said that, but instead he chose to use violence, which I did not love. Kento having to run away into the stairwell, I didn't love either, but I guess the teacher was the one to tell him to run away so that he didn't get in trouble. It was not my favorite moment for Kento in this season. So Mogi does end up apologizing to Ayane, saying that he didn't think that it would be that big of a deal to Ayane because he thought that she didn't really like him that much, so he didn't think his expectations and all that stuff really mattered. She does accept his apology. What I love about Ayane in this scene is that she was actually very level-headed about it. Instead of going to Kento right away, she went to Mogi to make sure that he was okay because, you know, Kento had just punched him. And then she goes to find Kento. So when she goes to the staircase, she sees Kento holding a bouquet, and it's, you know, withered, destroyed. Kento ends up giving her his sweater because it's cold out, it's winter. He gives her his Christmas present. These flowers are actually roses that may not exist in 10 years because the farmer who grows these roses is getting old. So it may not be around for much longer. Ayane is crying and she asks Kento if he's hurt and then asks, "What are you doing?" angrily, which, yes. Kento confesses his feelings towards Ayane. He says he loves her, which I think I'm like, whoa, you're going a bit fast. Like, this girl is potentially, you know, demi-romantic, demisexual, asexual, I'm not sure, but potentially. Just dropping the L-bomb on her right then and there, I feel like I'm like, wow, I would be so overwhelmed. So he tells her he loves her and he hugs her. And then he requests that she gives him a chance and that he treasure her, which I imagine he would. And she hugs him back and says, okay. I thought this scene was really cute. This was probably one of my favorite scenes. I don't know. I loved all of the like major scenes between the couples. Even though this scene was like slightly dramatic, I feel like that's why we watch this series. Like, there's like a little bit of drama there that we like to watch. I do love that Kento gives Ayane the space to have feelings develop. So the next day, Ayane tells her friends what happened at the staircase and that her and Kento are now official. So far, Ayane can't tell if she feels the same way for Kento, like the way that Sawako feels for Kazehaya, but she does think that they're headed towards a good direction, which I think, you know, Ayane doesn't have to feel for someone the same way that her friends do. She's gonna feel it a little differently. I'm hoping if there is a next season that we get to see more of that, which we probably will, if there's a next season, which I really hope there is. This video was originally released in Patreon, and I am now making it public to my YouTube channel. If you want to join my Patreon to get early access to videos, behind the scenes content, then follow my Patreon. I post a lot of life stuff, anime stuff. Sometimes I post covers. Since I am a nerd of most things animated, I love anime, I love Disney, I love any type of Western cartoon. I'm just getting into Vox Machina, which I really, I don't know how it took me this long to get into it, but yeah, so that's me if you want to check out my Patreon. And again, thank you so much to my Patreon members for supporting me. I really appreciate it. Moving on to my favorite couple, Chizu and Ryu. Personally, I love talking about them. I love their story. Out of the three, like I said, they are my favorite couple. I love couples that are childhood friends and then end up together. I think it's so cute. And I think that their personalities together, they're similar but also so different. They complement each other really well. I just love them together so much. Chizu and Ryu have been pretty awkward around each other since the summer. Chizu's been putting extra pressure on herself because she's still single. Because of the Okinawa trip coming up, everyone is starting to pair off and only her and Ayane are single. Oh no, never mind. Ayane is not single anymore. It's only Chizu. During the first night at the Okinawa class trip, a girl from class C ends up confessing to Ryu. He ends up rejecting her, just simply, no, I'm not interested, I'm interested in someone else. Chizu ends up finding out that someone had confessed to Ryu. She's disappointed about this because it took someone else to tell her and he wasn't the one to tell her, and that just kind of made her feel like they weren't as close as she feels that they are. It made her sad that one of her best friends kept something from her. The girl from class C, she confronts Chizu. It was really inappropriate. I did not like the way she did that. So she asks Chizu how she feels about Ryu. This makes Chizu super defensive and she starts to yell at this girl, which makes her cry. She basically tells Chizu to stop hanging out with him if she doesn't have romantic feelings for him, which is so weird. Like, these two have been childhood friends. She loves him. That's her friend. Like, whether or not she's in love with him, I mean, we'll see. Who is she to tell someone else who to be friends with, who to hang out with? That's not on her to say that to her. Anyways, it just really bothered me. Chizu runs into Ryu and she confronts him about not telling her that this girl from class C confessed to him. And he asks her if Chizu wants to know who he likes, and Chizu says no, it's none of her business, and then just walks away. I kind of like this version of him from this season, though. I like that he's not as quiet. Even though Chizu's still upset with Ryu, they do end up going to have ice cream together with Joe. Sorry, I really don't like Joe. So Joe wants to know who Ryu has a crush on, but Ryu doesn't say anything. And then Joe ends up leaving. I don't know why. Who cares? He's gone. So then it's just Chizu and Ryu. Ryu confesses that seeing Chizu so upset about the girl from class C made him happy because it meant that she might be interested to know who he does like, and then says that the girl he likes is her. I was not expecting him to just say it like that. Like, he was just so upfront about it, which made me really happy. I held my breath. I was like, oh my God, Chizu, what are you gonna do? Because obviously we know that she doesn't know how she feels about him in that way. It's pretty obvious that she does like him in some capacity, romantically at least, but it's just she doesn't realize it yet. Chizu ends up telling Ryu that she never really thought about him in that way, which is fair. Like, even if there are feelings, you either push them aside or you don't really think too much about it because you don't want to ruin the friendship. When Chizu tells him that she never really thought about him in that way, Ryu says that he knows. And he was very confident with his I know. The fact that he knew that Chizu felt this way, but was still willing to put himself out there, takes so much guts, especially because of how close they are. Back home, Chizu's mom makes sushi rolls for Ryu, which Chizu has been giving sushi rolls to Ryu since the 3rd grade, but Chizu gives the rolls to Kazehaya to pass on to Ryu because I guess she just still feels uncomfortable, which I'd probably do the exact same thing, just to avoid the awkwardness and just to give it some time. So the next day, Chizu actually ends up skipping school just to process her feelings and everything that's been going on between her and Ryu and their friendship changing. But Ryu actually knows exactly where Chizu is, so he gives a basket of food to Kazehaya to give to Chizu after school, since he knew that she probably would be hungry, since he knows her so well. So cute. Kazehaya and Chizu have a little scene together where Chizu tells Kazehaya that if she could be reborn, she would be reborn as Kazehaya, so she could still be best friends with Ryu. Sawako and Ayane end up showing up and then take over for Kazehaya. Chizu tells her friends that she's sad about her oldest relationship or oldest friendship changing. The change that's happening in her life right now, it's very devastating to her. It's a death of one thing, it's a rebirth of something else. Then we get the most heart-wrenching, beautiful flashback. Probably my favorite episode of all of this season. Ryu's mom makes him some rice balls, which are his favorite. They're young, probably in the 3rd grade. During lunchtime, they're eating outside and his rice ball ends up falling on the ground and stepped on by freaking Joe. Chizu's the only one who realizes that Ryu is sad and not angry with anyone. She ends up sharing her sushi with him, which makes him really happy. And then we have the scene where Ryu sees that Chizu wrote a wish about Toru, his older brother, on her tenzaku, which are paper strips that you write wishes on during Tanabata or the Star Festival. When Chizu and Ryu are walking towards the supermarket, I think it's a supermarket that they're going towards, and they spot Toru holding hands with some girl, Ryu instantly just grabs Chizu's hand and runs the other direction just to shield her from seeing any more of that, because he knows that she has a crush on his brother. He just wanted to help her. During a snowstorm, Ryu's mother bundles up both Ryu and Chizu with a scarf, just making sure they're all bundled up for their walk to school, since there is a blizzard and, you know, it's going to be cold and very windy and snowy. And unfortunately, this will be the last time that Ryu and Chizu sees his mother. Unfortunately, she ends up passing away in this snowstorm. She went to go pick up Ryu, and her car ended up crashing into a telephone pole. After the death of Ryu's mother, Chizu would bundle Ryu in the same way that his mother did before school. I don't know if she did this every time, but you know, it's something that she did do. Poor little Ryu, he put on such a brave face during the time of his mother's death. He didn't really show that he was grieving. Obviously, Chizu knew that he was upset. So to cheer him up, she would start making rice balls for him, which are his favorite, like I said, and something that his mother would make for him. So the first batch of these rice balls were very unique in shape, but it was a sweet gesture nonetheless. She would leave them at his front door of his house. When Ryu noticed these rice balls, at first he thought that it was for Toru. Toru suggests that they share these rice balls for breakfast, but Ryu ends up just saying, the Kazehayas gave me some breakfast anyway, so you can just have it. Toru, sensing the sadness from his little brother, ends up hugging him. This was the first time Ryu admitted how much pain he was in, and he says to Toru, "It hurts." This whole scene, I was crying like a little baby. It just like pulled my heart out of my chest. Chizu would leave rice balls in front of Ryu's house regularly. Her technique was starting to improve. Each time she would make them, they would look better and better. And one day, Ryu catches Chizu putting a plate of rice balls in front of the front door of his house. She starts to cry, which makes Ryu start to cry. They just hold each other crying, and this, I could not hold it in. It was so sad and so sweet. If I didn't love these two before, I certainly loved them even more. after this whole scene. So when Toru goes off to college, Chizu vows to protect Ryu like a sibling since his brother is away. Yeah, these flashback scenes, I cried so much. I cannot even tell you how much I cried. I was like inconsolable. Seeing their bond and just seeing how innocent and sweet and just caring they are for each other. They're just so freaking adorable. I can't even. Back to the present day, Chizu gives Ryu an early birthday present, which are rice balls. And obviously he's very happy about that. Chizu tells him that his confession made them not the same anymore. It changed their friendship, and she can't help but always think about the fact that he likes her now. Ryu says that he wanted them to change. The old version of them had to end so that he could have some relief. And yeah, it was probably hurting him more keeping it inside, so he needed to tell her. During the class Christmas party, Chizu cleans a spill on Joe's pants, which I was like, girl, why are you cleaning his pants for him? He should be cleaning his pants for himself. Like, I was like, this is just so weird. I don't know. I just find Joe so irritating, but I guess that's the point of the character. He's just comedic relief. And Chizu ends up yelling at Ryu and hitting him because he's just like staring at her, watching her clean Joe's pants. Such a weird scenario. So during the gift exchange, Chizu was hoping that her gift would land on Ryu because this gift was always meant to be Ryu's. She bought it for him and she was just hoping that it would just land on him. I don't know why she thought that would be a good idea. The chances of him getting that gift was very slim. I guess maybe it was less awkward for her to indirectly give it to him rather than to directly give it to him. So, of course, the gift does not land on Ryu, it lands on Joe. Before Joe could open it, Chizu snatches the gift out of his hands and runs away with it. But thankfully, our girl Ayane, she saved the day. She gave Joe her gift. Chizu makes her way outside, but when she does, Ryu puts her jacket over her and pulls her back inside. They're very quiet when they're inside, but Chizu just shoves her gift in Ryu's face, blushing. He opens it and she says she bought it for him, that it was meant to be his. So they're sweatbands or wristbands or something. I don't know. I'm not a sports girl. It's sweatbands or wristbands, whatever. He tells her that he has something for her too. This is a gift outside of the gift exchange, which I love that. I love that he's like more fearless because it definitely balances them out. His Christmas gift to her is in a cute box, and when she opens it, it's a preserved pink rose. He says that it reminded him of her. So Chizu is embarrassed, but probably wanting to like scream internally out of excitement because she obviously likes him. So she tries to rush back into the party room. Ryu stops her and says that he would like to spend a few more moments outside of the party with her, just one-on-one. So they just spend the rest of the Christmas party just hanging out. Who knows what they were talking about? I wish that we could see that. I wonder if we'll see that in the next season. Like I said, I love these two for many reasons, and I just want to see them happy. I want to see both of them happy. I want Chizu to realize her feelings, which it seems like she's starting to, and I want Ryu to finally be able to be with her because he's been so patient. And even when he knew that she had a crush on his brother, like it never made him angry or anything. He was just always there for her, and I love that. Every season I always find myself just wanting to know more about their friendship, their relationship. Every time there's a scene between them, they're always so fun, they're so funny, their personalities are so different that it's just fun to watch them. Chizu is hilarious, probably my favorite character in the series, I think. Overall, I really love this season. I guess we'll see if they do a next season. I feel like they will because of how popular this show is. If I find find out anything, I'll let you guys know. Or if you know something, then please let us know in the comments. Also, I would love to know what you guys think or what you guys thought of season 3. Like, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe if you're interested in more content like this. And if you're interested in joining my Patreon, the link will be down below. And as always, if you're leaving a comment, be respectful, be kind. I'll see you guys in my next video. Much love, guys. Bye.